The Equally Yoked Show. Get yoked for free. Count it all joy. Charles is back online.
Yoked Show. As we get into this broadcast, a little bit of a slow start to a song. I don't know. I just wanted to try it. Otherwise, let's get into some of the crazy stuff here concerning the affordability agenda. Now, the real affordability agenda, of course, of the MAGA movement and the things that are shaping up for 2026. We are looking at a series of things that will be happening in the coming weeks, of course, with the lead up to Davos, Switzerland, basically, which would be if I'm not mistaken, the World Economic Forum that would be gathering there. And of course, Trump will most certainly, as he always does, insert his dominance on the world stage. And these are going to be the likes of many prominent leaders and high profile people at this event, as there always is. Now, of course, if you remember during last year, I think it was last year, where the head of Davos, Klaus Schwab, stepped down. And if not mistaken, that was 2025. Otherwise, it would have been in 2024. However, that was huge news concerning his stepping down. Now, of course, when it comes to affordability and why this topic will hopefully explode in the matter of the next coming weeks, where we're going to be looking more at conversations on how we can get housing and get Americans into housing rather than the Somalians that are most certainly living off of the wealth of the American people. And instead of getting people that are not Americans into housing, that we actually get Americans into housing. Now, of course, here's a bit of a clip to basically show the sort of some of the inner workings of how all of this will come to be, and that they're, again, just taking their word, take it with a grain of salt, because of course we don't want to put our trust in politicians or people who are making all these promises in government. We want to make sure that we hold them accountable, along with everything else, such as the fraud that is in Minnesota. So here, we're going to look at a little bit of a clip here. And of course, we're going to feature Charlie Kirk on the next clip concerning delayed gratification, something that we've been talking about on this show also when it comes to the patience concerning what we are. It's this same idea of reaping what you sow, whether it is good or whether it is bad.
Just to that point, you have a president, he doesn't give a damn necessarily about, what may or may not be politically correct. If it's in the best interest of the American people, he's going to do it. And so if you have private equity people or you have donors, he is laser focused. I can tell you, because I've heard him say it, on what is the right thing for the American people. Banning institutional home buying is the right thing. And when you combine it with everything else that needs to get done, I firmly believe we can get out of this hole that Biden created for us these last 4 years.
Let's talk about Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
Now, we do remember what happened under the Biden administration. If you have a little bit of amnesia concerning what happened during the Biden administration, we saw the likes of which 10 million, maybe more, illegal immigrants that came into the country under his watch. And not because he wasn't, on top of it. He most certainly was just turning a blind eye to it and wanted them to come into the country. That was actually a terrible statement. It wasn't even turning a blind eye to it. It was more or less actually not obeying by the laws and the Constitution that provides us our freedoms and the protections concerning ICE, concerning law enforcement that helps mitigate these situations to keep Americans safe. Now, we're going to look also at a clip from Obama. If you remember here, now we're going to tackle this affordability in a moment. We're going to go back to it. And of course, I'd like to know your thoughts concerning this, because this is a huge conversation concerning the agenda for 2026. Now, here is Barack Obama back in 2020. This is a clip here. Let me bring you over to this clip. And you hear his position concerning this. Even Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton, a lot of these Democrats who can't seem to stay consistent concerning their word. This is who they are. That whenever it's convenient for them, they will indeed spread lies. It's total hypocrisy.
If you're a criminal, you'll be deported. If you plan to enter the U.S. illegally, your chances of getting caught and sent back just went up. The actions I'm taking are not only lawful, they're the kinds of actions taken by every single Republican president and every single Democratic president for the past half century.
But did we see any rioting happen? Did we see any ICE officers killing any civilians? Did we see any of this crazy stuff during this time of who actually he earned the title Deporter in Chief? He earned it.
I think we got to have tough conditions. Tell people to come out of the shadows. If they've committed a crime, deport them. No questions asked. They're gone.
All Americans, not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country, are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country. The jobs they hold might otherwise be held by citizens or legal immigrants. The public service they use impose burdens on our taxpayers. That's why our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders more, by hiring a record number of new border guards, by deporting twice as many criminal aliens as ever before, by cracking down on illegal hiring, by barring welfare benefits to illegal aliens. In the budget I will present to you, we will try to do more to speed the deportation of illegal aliens who are arrested for crimes, to better identify illegal aliens in the workplace as recommended by the commission headed by former Congresswoman Barbara Jordan.
So this is what bothers the commentators or the podcasters or whoever concerning the Democrats. They can't seem to stick to their word when it comes to things such as a secure border, such as illegal immigration. And whatever is convenient to them, to their pocket, convenient to their position, they will choose to be swayed by the ones that they want to invite, at least so that they can keep into power, so they can increase their wealth, such as Nancy Pelosi, such as Ilhan Omar. I mean, I still find it wild that she's was elected into office. How? I don't know. But this is Charlie Kirk talking about the delayed gratification effect. This is very important concerning this matter.
God should be the most important thing in your life. Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior. Most important thing. But then beyond that, it's getting married, having children, building families, leaving a legacy, doing big and great things. You, especially as men, but women as well, you are obligated to do difficult and hard things. The West was built, our nation was built on delayed gratification, not instant gratification. That maybe I'm not going to go do what feels good in the moment. I'm going to forsake what feels good, and I'm going to parlay that into the future.
Wonderful.
I'm not going to go do what.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful and well said concerning the delayed gratification that we are hoping to reap what we sow when it comes to the midterms in 2026. Concerning the fraud that is being upended, concerning the politicians who we are going to hold accountable concerning everything leading up to this very moment of what it's going to be shaping up for even up to 2028. What that looks like. Whether Trump decides to run again for another third term. Whether J.D. Vance. Whether AOC. We're looking at a point in America's history when it comes to even the things that was done with Venezuela and maybe Cuba. And also what's happening in Iran. Now, what also is happening in Iran, we're witnessing such an unprecedented amount of protesters where this doesn't seem to be dying down. However, despite the deaths that continue to increase, despite the amount of protesters being arrested, they continue to stand resilient. And whether this regime falls in the next coming days or hours or weeks, let's hope that we find peace in the coming days, months, weeks, whatever it takes when it comes to the Iranian people. They have had enough with the oppression that they are under. You're seeing women, you're seeing men protesting against the regime. But you're seeing also on the flip side in America, those who some have flipped their script concerning Hamas, concerning Iran. But not only that, those who just don't know what to protest anymore. So they'll go back to the roots, the Free Palestine. They'll do it in New York, in front of a synagogue. So when we're talking about ICE and the rhetoric that continues, we're talking about actors such as Mark Ruffalo talking about Renee Good, saying that he's not feeling good. Interesting. We're going to take a look at that clip in a moment. Actually, right now, in fact, I think this is a good point to segue into this. Glad you're here, Zach. God bless you in your work. And yeah, they're calling for America to free the drug lord. That's what they want. They say no kings. However, they want to free the very king that was holding the Venezuelan people hostage, a nation that was once very prosperous, but was destroyed because of socialism, communism. Welcome, A. Matthews. Glad to have you here.
Joined now by Mark Ruffalo, who is a nominee tonight, and his wife, Sunny. And I want to ask you right off the bat, how much fun is it in that room? Sitting there, you have a couple cocktails, you hang out with everybody.
And look, this guy probably was not expecting this type of response. He's probably going to get like, we're having a good time here. We're here at the Golden Globes. No, instead, it goes straight for the political talk, which honestly, actors need to stay out of politics. They suck when it comes to politics. Some might do okay. Maybe Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who's covering some of the wickedness that Gavin Newsom, calling out the crazy, radical policies that he's implementing. I don't agree with everything that he says. However, I do find some of his conversations interesting concerning this.
There's all kinds of conversations going on.
It's usually a lot of fun, but I can't really, I got to be honest with you. I'm not feeling so great. We have a woman, Renee Good, was murdered.
And so he's pointing at a pin that many, I mean, I'm not sure how many were actually wearing this pin, but it's apparently it was a popular pin that was being worn by many actors, where it says, "Be good."
In our streets of America today, and we got literally stormtroopers running around terrorizing. And as much as I love all this, I don't know if I can pretend like this crazy stuff isn't happening. We have a president who says the laws of the world don't apply to him, and we could rely on his morality, but he has no morality. So where does that leave us? Where does that leave the world? So I love these people. I love being here. I love you. But I also can't. It's so hard to pretend anymore. Mm-hmm. This is crazy what's happening.
I have to ask you because I have family from the Twin Cities, so I understand how hard that is right now. Well, lots of people are hurting right now, and that's the problem, is that the people are hurting.
Yeah. And
So he begins to spread this sort of message of, well, the president doesn't have any type of morality. Look, it always goes back to the president. They always want to blame the president for everything. Rather than for sure, we can analyze and we can take a look at the ICE officer who did what he did. We can look at all the video footage and say definitively one way or another, which we're also going to take a look at one of the Minnesota or the Minneapolis police chief who will be there to defend his police officers. And so he's going to go on a messaging of love. It's all about love. Sure, yes, love is everything. But you're missing the important part. It's not about Trump's morality. It's about the morality. I mean, where it really all falls down to is the standard, the biblical standard that we have for morality, because when humanity begins to shape and to figure out what is good and what is wrong, what is evil, what is bad, then people go with the collective rather than the standard, which is God.
People can't pay their rent. This isn't making us any safer. They can't pay their rent. They can't buy food. Insurance is impossible. They can't take care of their families and health. There's no education. I mean, this is not making America better. If it was, I'd be, yeah, great, let's do it. But that's not what's happening.
But he's missing the point. For somebody saying you're missing the point, he's missing the point, because when you import all of these third world country folks, you become the third world. You become the people who are not able to afford rent and food and housing. You become this nation. This is why we have borders. God gave us sovereign borders. Not just America, but the world. And the standard that he implemented it with was with Israel. Believe it or not.
And we have Americans being shot, killed, a woman in her car.
So I'm going to ask you this, because we're talking about the problems. What do you think we can do what are the solutions?
Listen, I think most Americans
Excellent
want
question.
the same thing. They want a little sun on their face. They want to know that their kids are going to be okay. They want to know their kids are going to be safe. They want to be able to pay their rent. They want to be able to know they're going to send their kids to a good education. But right now, the whole Senate, the whole Congress has been taken over by corporations. So who's there fighting for us now? Nobody. But if somebody did, they got us at each other's throats. The billionaires got us at each other's throats, right? We're out there killing each other. You know what the solution is? Is doing something for the working people, putting all your focus on that.
But what do you think Donald Trump is doing? He's making America first. He's stopping the drugs from coming into the country. He's securing the border. It's fascinating. This is why I continue to say they need to stay out of politics, because where are they getting this information from? I mean, do you remember the Oscars where everybody went off talking about Donald Trump? I get it. He was not a favorable man during that time, and I was even a part of that group saying the same things that the actors were saying, sort of mimicking their language and their talk and their speech about how he's such a bad guy, orange man, bad. Look, we don't worship the guy. But everybody that wants to continue to say orange idol and he's your king, hogwash, bullcrap. This is the president in a long time who's putting the American people first. And it's radical amongst many. I find that crazy, reprehensible. And so here's the person who's fear-mongering, the person who is lying straight through her teeth, their captain-in-chief, Ilhan Omar. This is her on Face the Nation.
Treasury Secretary Bessent called Minnesota ground zero for what may be the most egregious welfare scam in our nation's history to date. 85 of the 98 people who were charged by the Justice Department with this welfare scheme are Somali. And you know this. The Treasury Secretary is probing whether any of the money was somehow funneled outside the country. He actually issued new standards. He's going to make it make someone disclose if they receive public assistance when they try to wire money out of the country, and he's lowered the bar for suspicious activity. What is the practical impact of doing that in the community?
It's just creating fear. What they are doing is creating confusion, chaos, trying to intimidate people from being able to exercise their regular, normal activities that they would. There is no justification in any of the things that they say. The 87 people that you've described as being investigated, many of them adjudicated, all happened under the Biden administration. There is no justification for this search. We know that ICE has the ability to conduct raids.
So
there is no reason.
At what point do we begin to justify? So when does a situation like this warrant justification? And exactly right. She knows how to play the victim card really well. We cannot overlook these statements by Ilhan Omar, but she will be held accountable for every word that she says. What we want, what the American people want, is accountability, of course, but accountability of these wicked politicians. This is her very statement on X for those that are saying that we're the liars. She says there's no violent riots in Minnesota, or I'm sorry, in Minneapolis, like you wanted. The only violence we have seen is from your agents terrorizing people. I'm sorry, what? They're warning people, going to their windows of their cars and saying, hey, what you're doing is going to get you arrested. We're seeing all of these video footage, all of these video clips circulating online. Our neighbors are showing up with love and protection for one another. Love and compassion has always been our North Star. Yeah, sure. When you defraud, when you fraud the American people, that's love? I'm sorry, what? Go back to the Bible where in Isaiah 5:20 says they will call good evil and evil good. This is her doing that very exact thing. This is what's happening in Minnesota. This is where the ICE agents were staying, in a hotel. You call this love? You call this nonviolent? Where they're defacing and destroying a business when the business is accepting ICE agents? And so they're making all this noise. And I have the audio very low just so you don't get your ears blown out by the agitators, the professional agitators. Let me amp up the audio for you to hear. So they're calling them Nazis. They're calling them crazy names, mind you. And we have somebody in the chat who has some decency and some common sense to say what we've been saying for a while here is people have choices to make. David says choosing to try and block officers from doing their job is a bad choice. Her actions had consequences. This is what she was reaping for, and she most certainly sowed it. And so we have people like YouTube Punk calling this Nazi behavior. How irrational. When these are fathers, maybe some mothers, but probably mostly men who are doing this job that they were called to do, that they were called to serve their nation. Just like those who defend our borders, the military, the Navy, the likes of which are all protecting us and our freedoms for you to say the nonsense that you continue to say day in and day out. But even Jacob Fry, or Frey, I don't even know how to pronounce his last name. I think it's Fry. Frey, I don't know. Jacob, the mayor of Minneapolis, The fraud is real. This is what he's saying. The fraud is real.
Let me ask you about the leadership in your state. Dozens of people in Minnesota have been charged and convicted with stealing millions of dollars of taxpayer money for government programs. Do you think Governor Walz did enough to stop the fraud in your state? And do you support his decision not to run for re-election?
Well, look, Governor Walz is the reason that we've got paid family leave in Minnesota. He's the reason we've got free school lunches. Him and I, we've been through thick and thin.
But did he do enough to combat fraud,
over these
Mayor?
last 5
Did he do
years.
enough to combat fraud?
Look, obviously, everybody could have done more to prevent fraud, and I think that's a fair point to make. Do more to prevent fraud, and you look what he's doing right now. He's setting up a whole bunch of infrastructure to do that. And by the way, look, the fraud's real. We've all got to acknowledge it. The fraud is very real. And by the way, when somebody commits fraud, and there are many that have done that, you investigate it, you charge, you prosecute, and yeah, you put the person in jail. As an individual, you put the person in jail as an individual. You do not hold an entire community, any community, accountable for the actions of individuals.
But like I said, he has his Minneapolis police chief who is saying that he's going to stick his neck out for his fellow cops. Here we go. You can even see the mayor's response here, looking at him like, did you really just say that? And by the way, Jerry, you're saying you're checking in. I saw your comment just a moment ago. You say, hey, brother, I'm just checking in, so need a change up if you can. Not sure if you want to elaborate a little bit more on what you're asking for. I appreciate your comments. For those that are saying I'm defending ICE and defending the such and saying you're a Christian, consequences, so you're a Christian, but defend somebody getting killed because she was protesting. I really want to understand. Look, the death of anybody, according to God's word, says the death of the wicked, that he does not desire the wicked to perish. Why? Because they are eternally separate from God. They are eternally separate from him. They chose this route. They chose this route to live the life that they wanted to live. They denied God their life. And as unfortunate as it is that she died, you'll hear from this police chief who's saying, look, within reasonable situations, this was a reasonable situation where she floored her vehicle. We have Ilhan Omar. We have the mayor saying she did a 3 to 4 to 5 point turn. Who is, you've seen the video. It's literally one single, barely even turning. At best, her wheel was barely turned. And he was in front of the vehicle. You're asking who died? This is the woman by the name of Renee Good, who is a professional agitator, somebody who was trained. Now, before we play this clip here, I actually must show you this clip because this is according to Joy Reid. Everybody loves Joy Reid. Here's Joy Reid talking about this woman, Renee Good. Now, take her word for a grain of salt if you want. But this is what she says concerning her.
This woman was part of a group of people who they train to try to be ICE interrupters. Mm-hmm. And what they try to do is observe what ICE is doing, film them, and try to use their white privilege, to be honest. They're mainly white people.
Which is what we ask.
Which is what we ask them to do, right?
Yeah.
Because black people, we can't put our bodies on the line because cops will shoot us. And so the presumption had been, particularly a white woman, because remember, part of the rationale for doing this with ICE is to save white women, pristine white women, from being ravaged by, criminal brown men. So white women, have been taking the lead in being the ones to step forward.
So anybody who's black, and she's literally saying, look, we don't want to put ourselves in the line. We want to let the white person do it so they can use their white privilege so they won't get shot. Look at what Joy Reid is saying. She's the one that's saying that she's an agitator. This is what she's supposed to do. They're there to film ICE. They're there to conduct these operations, to prevent them. And since when has it, I mean, why are many agreeing that to impede law enforcement is a good thing to do? It's never a good thing to do. So where this idea comes from, it comes from the radical left. It comes from the lies straight from the pit of hell, straight from Satan, matter of fact. So this is the Minneapolis police chief.
Chief, what's your reaction to the Homeland Security Secretary's claims and also just the assertion that the officer feared for his life?
Well, I got to tell you, as a matter of policy and training amongst professional police departments for many, many years in this country, we have an obligation to ensure, particularly during traffic stops, that our officers are doing everything possible so that we don't unnecessarily put their lives in jeopardy, so that our officers are not unnecessarily creating a risk of imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury, either to themselves or others. And that means that they have to employ sound tactics and must be proportional in what they do. That being said, it's not always 100%. Law enforcement officers cannot control the actions of other people.
Now, what he said was key. How in the world was this ICE officer going to understand or know that she was going to floor the vehicle towards him? We saw his video. We saw his point of view where you can hear his phone or his hand or whatever, his body was smacked against the hood of the vehicle. The bullet shots going straight through her windshield. All this evidence that needs to be put into question, of course, because as many are calling for an investigation, rightly so. Let's continue on here.
And that's why a full and thorough investigation in every case where there is a use of force is necessary. I will be the first one to stand up for my cops when a situation happens and it is abundantly clear that there's no indication to think that an officer could have possibly done anything else. I'll be the first one to stand up and say,
look at
my
Jacob
cops put
Fry.
their lives on the line and they did what they have to do, and I have no reason to think that it wasn't anything other than our policy and lawful. But I think we have to use caution, even as Tom Homan has said, and allow a full and impartial investigation to proceed.
Mayor Fry, the police union in Minnesota released.
So what do you guys think about that? His statements concerning the fact that he's going to stick his neck out for his own police. Now you might say he's talking about his own police, but look, clearly he's referencing what this ICE officer did. This ICE officer is indeed somebody of law enforcement. He's enforcing the law. He was tasked to do this by the president of the United States, the chief, commander-in-chief. So what do we make of this? Do we just bypass this statement from the police officer? But again, you look at Jacob and his response, kind of looking at him like, did you really just say that in front of me? Let me go there for a moment. Let me just back up just a couple of seconds as soon as he finishes. Just pay attention to his gaze that just stays there a little while longer.
An impartial investigation to proceed.
Mayor Fry, the police union in Minnesota released a statement that says in part, quote,
look, could mean nothing. I don't want to we're not here to instigate anything, but what was he thinking in that moment? Fascinating. Here's Caroline Levitt concerning DHS, concerning ICE, because of this sort of hot topic that this is the topic of the day. ICE, Donald Trump, whether he's acting like a king or whether he's acting in his executive powers. Here we go.
President Trump and the entire Trump administration stands firmly with the brave men and women of ICE, who are everyday Americans who put on their uniform every day to protect our communities and to carry out lawful law enforcement operations. That's what's been happening on the ground in Minnesota, and that's what's been taking place in every community across the country. And I just want to zoom out, and you see these agitators who have been violently protesting and harassing ICE agents all weekend long. What are they out there protesting for? They are actively trying to impede law enforcement operations and end the President Trump's mandate to deport illegal alien criminals from our communities. And it's Fox News' very own Bill Malugin, who had exceptional reporting in the last few days. These are illegal alien criminal pedophiles, murderers, rapists, some of the worst criminals who, if given the chance, would commit those same heinous crimes to the protesters in the streets of Minneapolis right now. So short answer is yes, of course. We are surging resources to Minneapolis, and the Trump administration is going to deliver on President Trump's mandate to remove violent illegal aliens from our communities and make America safe again.
Yeah, that list of apprehensions got the attention of even some.
So some are asking questions like the lady that got shot, it was her fault. You can hate ICE as much as you want. She put herself in that situation. It is her fault. Somebody said, how did the woman turn and drive down the street? When you're shot, depending on how you were shot, in the case of Charlie Kirk, when he was shot, his body went into a state of shock, where at that point, he was probably instantly dead and had no motor functions immediately after he was shot. In the case of Renee, we don't know exactly how she was shot, where she was shot. The officer fired 3 rounds. Did all 3 rounds make it? Will they release an examiner report on this? But she was, and rightly so, she was conducting a criminal act and was shot in defense. Open your eyes. Look, she was using her vehicle, which can be used as a deadly force. So however you put it, the law is most certainly going to side with the ICE agent. As mad as you might be about this, this is going to be put to the test and put to trial. However this is going to go down.
Democrats, Michael LaRosa, who's going to be with us next hour, put out on X, WTF is Minnesota thinking about trying to protect people like this.
That's right.
In terms of what happened last Wednesday and the officer who was involved in the shooting, does the president stand fully behind that officer, that agent? Does the president believe his actions were justified?
And by the way, for those that are saying, you know, he walked away. Sure, he walked away. He didn't die. J.D. Vance pointed out that this same officer was dragged by a vehicle a couple months prior. That, of course, he would feel a little sensitive when it comes to vehicles flooring it in his direction. What do you make of that?
Absolutely. And I think the more evidence that comes out shows the officer was justified, and President Trump was right about this all along. And who was wrong? The Democrat Party and the mainstream media, who despicably have been lying about this officer and about this case from the very beginning. And they have had to change their story and their narrative. Because at first, you heard Democrats, including the mayor of Minneapolis, saying that the car never struck the officer and the lethal force was unjustified. Now, of course, there is plentiful video evidence to show that the officer was struck by the car, that this deranged lunatic woman was trying to ram him over with her vehicle and was using that vehicle as a weapon, which justifies domestic terrorism. And unfortunately, we are seeing these instances play out in American communities across the country, where you have these organized, paid antagonists who are part of these groups that are actively, unlawfully impeding lawful law enforcement operations. They are harassing and targeting ICE agents, trying to make it impossible, again, for them to carry out their duties. That's what was happening in this case. That officer used his training. I understand that he's been on the force and he's been protecting American communities for many, many years. He's an experienced and brave individual who unfortunately had to make a very tough decision and was put in that position by these paid agitators who have been doing this all over the country.
Caroline, tomorrow we...
And so we see the likes of, somewhat similarly to, look, if this was somebody of either a minority or a black person, you'd see bigger crowds than this. You'd see more rioting in the streets. You'd have the likes of a George Floyd 2.0, except it was a white person. So the amount of, I mean, this is taken to storm on social media. You're seeing a huge uprising within social media. Rather, when you look at what happened in George Floyd, you saw huge protests. This went on globally and worldwide. So Joy Reid is right. They don't put themselves, they're not going to put themselves in harm's way, because we'd rather let the white person do it. Let the white person do it so they can use their white privilege and use that to avoid being shot. Not my words, those are her words. So what do we see here with everything that is happening in this crazy world? We have Ilhan Omar calling Elon Musk the dumbest person in the world, because she has nothing better to say. This is Elon Musk saying this has been happening for years. Let's go to the actual post concerning this. This is somebody showing a graph here, a simple graph. Anybody can make this. How is this not treason? Saying the incentivizing illegal immigration by vastly expanding welfare and giving it to non-citizens, keep borders open. So you got this little graph here. Okay, mail-in ballots plus no photo ID win elections, expand welfare to illegal immigrants flood in. Then the cycle repeats, and this is what Elon Musk tweets concerning this post. It says this has been happening for years. Ilhan Omar is the most obvious example. A large number of relatively recent arrived Somalis will elect only a Somali to Congress. In that Minnesota district, this is much more subtle, but just as bad in many other parts of America. And this is her response to Elon Musk. You are one of the dumbest people on earth. My district is literally a majority white district. Your conspiracy theories are laughable and should have no place in society that cares about facts. And so she's going to bring out this point of majority white district, but how did you get these votes in the first place? We need investigations into all of this. So if it's a trash stream, why don't you take to the comments and provide some type of intelligent response concerning the simple points that I'm bringing out here? It's not hard to understand this. But here's AOC going on and saying that she's admitting that this is what the money, the cuts to the healthcare fraud, or the healthcare, and this is what is paying for. This is what those cuts are being used to pay for.
Government funding, we're about to run out of money. What should be the red lines when it comes to ICE funding? When it comes to DHS, should there be policy or reduction in funding? What should be the options?
I mean, in terms of which deadlines line up with which goals, that's a tactical decision to be made. But my position has always been clear that ICE funding should be cut. We're seeing what they're doing with this reckless explosion in funding, and mind you, just so everybody knows, I want everybody to understand the cuts to your health care are what's paying for this. All that extra money that everybody's paying right now in their premiums, all that extra money that you're paying, it is paid for with It is all of that extra money that the government and the ACA subsidies that was given to nearly $1 trillion in healthcare was taken out and given to ICE. So understand how these dots connect. You get screwed over to pay a bunch of thugs in the street that are shooting mothers in the face. That is what.
So again, more rhetoric. The thugs, rather than call them law enforcement, the thugs that are going and shooting mothers in the face as if this is the standard by which they are conducting their operations. They're going to go around shooting mothers in the face. This is the type of rhetoric where it riles up people, such as the American people, such as the one that are going to fall into this deception and put themselves in a position they shouldn't be in. And look, I'll reiterate the same point that I think is just a very common sense point by J.D. Vance, is that if you have a problem, take it to the ballot box. No mail-in no mail-in box. Don't do that. Don't do that. Take it to the ballot box. By the way, California passing over 1 million signatures, they need to get over, I think, 800,000 more for the case of the fact that they're going to be looking and analyzing into at least 800,000 signatures. They're going to be looking and analyzing to see exactly who's legitimate on these signature rolls. Oh, but I thought you didn't care. I thought you didn't care about voter ID. Interesting. So things are shaping up for 2026. And how things are looking when it comes to the Democrats in power. And I mean, honestly, where is America going to turn? Where is America going to turn? Is it going to turn for the better and continue on this uphill battle to undo the bad policies by Joe Biden and by the Democrats? Really, Joe Biden's handlers and the Democrats that want to continue their lies and hypocrisy. We don't trust politicians on the left or the right. What we want to do is trust in the Lord God. His truth stands above it all. His truth is the only truth that matters. That he is the way, the truth, and the life concerning everything. That he is the one that defines the evil and the good. That we are led by the Spirit of God to pursue a nation that is righteous and holy. We want freedom. We want to continue these conversations and open dialogue concerning these matters as we look further into Scripture, as we look further into America, and as we look for the golden age to come. Now, hopefully, we'll see a more prosperous America in the coming year. But it will only be by the grace of God that he gives us this time to build up a nation that is righteous. Because a righteous nation, when a nation is ruled by the righteous, the people rejoice. But when the wicked rule, the people groan. Just take a look at Iran for a moment. The people that are dying for a cause to upend the regime that is in power. The regime that takes no care, doesn't care not a single bit for the Iranian people, doesn't care for their well-being. It's wild. Thank you, Jeremy Renner. I appreciate that. This is crazy. So guys, I want to thank you for joining this podcast. If you guys have any further thoughts, email me, freedom@equallyyokeshow.com. Look, this is one of the more professional, I would say, live shorts feeds on YouTube. I hope so. For the ones that you might scroll as you continue on with your day, I hope this will be the go-to when it comes to the things that we're seeing in this world, the things that we're hoping to filter through the biblical lens, the nonsense, and really to find the truth in the matter of everything. That we analyze everything through the lens of the Bible, as I mentioned. However, like the show, subscribe to the podcast, and of course, we love to get your thoughts and how we can improve this show. I know call-ins are something that is being requested quite a bit. Quite frankly, the infrastructure that we have for this solo podcast, the money that it costs for minutes on the Roadcaster, I've tried it with my phone. Nobody can hear the other caller. We've done it with the Roadcaster. However, there is only a trial available for call-ins. So if you want to, by all means, support the podcast by a subscription. It's okay. Subscribe, it's free, by all means. And so, like I said, you said the last time Charles did call-ins, it went really well. Look, again, these are paid minutes by Roadcaster. You have to pay for the minutes. You're limited on that, and we need to build up the show to make it greater than what it can be, greater than I could ever make it myself. But that, of course, is always something that you are free to do so. And guys, appreciate your candor, appreciate your comments. I hope to see you guys in on another podcast. And God bless you all for tonight's being here for tonight's stream. And I hope to see you in the next one, hopefully. I didn't know that or forgot. Yeah, I mentioned it before, but otherwise you have to pay for it's a subscription. You have to pay for it. It sucks. So they only allow a trial, and then after that you have to just pay. It's terrible. But you said you could just set up a streaming panel with StreamYards. I don't even know what that is, honestly. The only thing that I have here that I'm utilizing is OBS, a Roadcaster, a switcher, and that's about it. My camera, obviously, and a laptop. And it's a little bit hard to jumble everything. So again, appreciate the patience. I have to look into StreamYards. I don't know what that is. I really don't. I haven't looked into any other streaming programs other than OBS. I've looked somewhat into Wirecast, but that's a $500 I don't know, one-time payment. All this stuff. I don't know. But yeah, as this show grows in support, either monetarily or through subscriptions or through ads, who knows? But did you say it was cheap, Punk? Not sure if that's what you said, but look, rent is not cheap. So, yeah, by all means, subscribe. That's a huge support. And of course, get the word out. And of course, feel free to subscribe, like, share the show, get it out there, and let's grow this podcast greater than what it can be into a different format, however it needs to be. So appreciate you guys. God bless you. And I'll see you guys in the next podcast. Peace.